Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Red Dirt Rods. Now today we're working on a seat upholstery project. We picked up a Mexican blanket like this one right here from Speedway Motors, and we're gonna show you how to take a blanket like this, put it on your seats, and make a Mexican blanket seat cover. It's a really simple project, and we're gonna show you how to do it without having to use a sewing machine. We have a complete seat from a 1956 Chevy truck. It is the bare springs and frame, so all the other stuff had been already removed when we got the truck. We're gonna show you how to put down new batting, new burlap to protect everything, and the blanket. We're also gonna show you how to repair the seat springs, and we're gonna show you a couple other tricks along the way, so you can do this for your project. So for this project, you need a couple of specialty tools. The main one is a set of hog ring pliers. Now these are Osborne brand, which are a professional set. These cost about 36 bucks. You can get these for 20, 30 bucks on the internet, and these work really well. The main thing that you want is that you have a good set of comfortable hog ring pliers. The kind of pliers that come with replacement seat covers, they're really thin, they're gonna hurt your hands, you're gonna absolutely hate them. You want to spend just a little bit of money on a good set of hog ring pliers like these to do this project. We also have a set of 45-degree hog ring pliers for getting into tight spaces, but for this project, we're only gonna use the straight ones. You also want a pair of good quality scissors. I use these. These are about 50, 60 years old. They're really good quality. I've actually restored these a couple times. Upholstery scissors are only for fabric. You do not want to use scissors that you cut cardboard or paper or anything else with. You want sharp upholstery scissors so that you can make good clean cuts and not have snags. That will always be a headache. You'll need some hog rings. We got a bag of these from somewhere. We picked these up from our local upholstery shop. You're also going to want a pair of side cutters because you might make a mistake, and this is the best way to remove a hog ring, and we'll show you how to do that as well. Now the seat that we're working on is, like I said, from a 56 Chevy truck. These seats do not have a good place for hog rings on the base. It's just a solid base. They had a push-in metal strip that was rotten. So we're gonna show you a trick on how to create a hog ring strip so that you can do this project a little bit easier. Most of the seats that you're gonna be dealing with for this kind of project have just a wire frame, so that, or a section of wire frame that you can crimp your hog rings to. It's a lot easier to work with those. But we're gonna show you all these tips and tricks so you can do it for your project. All right, so is use some baling wire. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but this is the way we're gonna go. So we're using a piece of baling wire and some screws. All right, first thing we're gonna do is take the baling wire. We're just gonna make a little loop. You can cut that little end off. All right. So then we'll take a screw and our screw gun, and I'm just gonna screw this right here to the seat frame. Okay. And I'm gonna pull this tight, and I'm gonna set a screw about every 6 or so inches. Once it starts to bite, I'm gonna pull the wire tight and do a loop, and then screw that down. So it's gonna come through, like I said, about every 6 to 8 inches. I'm gonna make a screw hole. Just gonna go ahead and set several of these. You wanna make sure you have a screw at every area where you're gonna have a tight bend so that you have ample secure locations for your hog ring. We're just gonna come by and pull this wire tight. We're gonna go around each screw, and then as we do that, we're gonna zip that screw down. So now we've got a single line that's perfect for our hog rings. They don't have to be guitar string tight, but you just don't want them moving around a bunch. So now it's time to replace some of the springs. A lot of the seat springs are broken, and we're not talking about the actual pocket spring, we're talking about the connecting spring. Now, some older vehicles, these are actually tied with rope, little hemp string or cotton twine. Well, you can do it like that, or you can use this kind of spring. Now, this was a porch door spring that we picked up from Lowe's, and we stretched it, and then we cut it at about 3 inches. And they're gonna sit like this in the spring pocket. So I want to show you real quick exactly how I'm doing this. So we've got this end, and I'm just gonna pop it over, and I'm gonna take my pliers, and I'm gonna make sure that this tail is over the other edge, so it's completely around it, and I'm just gonna squish it down. Okay, just like that. Then I'm gonna pull the other side. On this one, I'm gonna come up from the bottom and then reach in here with the pliers, bend the spring around a little bit so that when I bend it down, it completely encapsulates the top wire of the ring so it doesn't come off. All right, so we've got our seat ready. All of our springs are tied together. I like the way this is all feeling. So now we need to protect everything that we're gonna put on top of these springs, and we do that with some burlap. Now I've got a big roll of burlap. I had some extra from a previous project laying around, and it just happens to be about the right size. So we're just gonna pull this and get it about as even as we can, side to side. And then what I'm gonna do is, to hold this in place, I'm just gonna throw a couple hog rings across these base springs here. What I like to do with burlap is roll it over so that when the hog ring goes through, it's going through 2 layers of material. If you're concerned about your burlap, you can do this with any of your materials at all. You can take a piece of baling wire and make it into a listing wire. That's what this stuff is called. And basically what you do is you take that, you fold your material around it, and then you hog ring that listing wire in between the 2 pieces, and that gives you a little bit more durability if you're going to be pulling on this, you know, trying to get everything tight. For what we're working on here, I don't need it, and this is really heavy burlap, so I'm not going to worry about that. But if you're working with some light burlap or some thin fabric or vinyl, especially with vinyl, you want a listing ring with vinyl, then that's a good way to do it. So what we're going to do is we've got our hog ring here, and I've got this kind of adjusted. We're just going to double that over, and we're just going to go right here. You always work from the center out. Take our hog ring, capture both sides of it, squeeze it down, okay? Right there, that's all we need. We only need a few of those across. This isn't going to get a lot of tension on it. We're just trying to hold it in place. Now, on the sides, we're just going to kind of tuck this in and throw a couple of hog rings on the lower springs here. This is not critical. You could probably get away with zip ties or even just folding it up and laying it under there. The upholstery will keep it all in place. Fun fact, hog rings are literally hog rings. You can buy these at an upholstery shop or at an agricultural store. They're literally the same thing that they use to ring a hog's nose. It's really interesting. Now we're gonna just take the front side and we're going to go to the bottom rings here. And we're just gonna gather this up like that. Push our hog ring in and squish it down. So this is our base. Now we need to lay down some cotton batting. Now some seats, like most of your more modern seats, which I would say starting around the mid to early 60s, they're going to have foam. And we're not using foam. These are not foam-based seats. All of the shape and spring is done with the springs here. So these seats will use cotton batting. If you have a foam-based seat, then you can just reuse the original foam. If your foam is damaged, you can cover it with burlap and cotton batting, and that will smooth it out. That works really well. Or you could just leave it, like I said. So we're gonna grab some batting, bring that over here. So this is our roll of cotton batting. We picked this up from a local upholstery shop. This whole roll costs somewhere around 40, 50 bucks. It's pretty cheap. And you can buy it by the foot as well. So we're gonna put 2 or 3 layers of this on each part of our seat because we want it to be nice and comfortable. So all we're gonna do here, we're gonna pull our seat over to it. This stuff is fragile. You can tear it really easy. So just be careful with it when you're pulling it. Kind of lift it up, pull it over. Usually it has a piece of tissue. This is literally toilet paper that shows the separation because you can pull this stuff out in chunks. Oh, that, see what I mean? It doesn't take much. But that's okay, that's why we're doing 2 or 3 layers. So with our batting, we just want enough, about 3 or so inches hanging off the side, because we don't want that bar on the side around this, we don't want that to be exposed on the finished product. We want to have a nice amount of material there to keep it so it looks good and flows. So we're gonna pull this over. We've got that about 3 inches there. Upholstery shears. This is a little bit easier if you have a big long workbench, but I don't have one of those set up right now, so showing it how most people will do it in their shop. So just be careful with the batting because it does tear pretty easily. Now I just want to point out that all of this part here is not necessary if you have a good seat, or should I say a decent seat base. So if your foam is good, if you're just going, you can even go over existing upholstery that's just cracked and frayed, and then you don't have to do all of this. If you are gonna go over existing upholstery, 1 layer of this will help smooth it out so that you won't have, especially if it's an old crusty vinyl, if you didn't want to remove it for some reason, probably would be best to go ahead and take it off. But if you don't want to, you can lay some of this on it and make your seat cover, and you don't have to go through all of this extra effort. So now we've got this, I want to go ahead and do 1 more layer of burlap over this, and we're going to go all the way around the seat at this point. Okay, so now we've got this. I'm just going to double check and make sure it wraps everywhere I want it. We just want to make sure it gets to our listing wire that we put on the bottom earlier. Now, again, you're gonna work from the center out. So you're gonna do this side, you're gonna do the entire back side, and then you will pull this and stretch it down to the front and hog ring those on the front, and then you'll get to the sides. Okay, so we've got our listing wire here. This is already doubled. So this has been, I think it's glued together. So we're just gonna use that. So if you come in here and you hook your hog ring on the bottom of the listing wire and then pull that down, then that guarantees that you got a bite. So we'll go ahead and do a few of these across the back side, and then we'll come over to the front. So now we're about ready to stretch our burlap across the front. I do want to show you this. This is a piece of upholstery foam. This is open cell foam. You can get this in all kinds of different thicknesses and densities if you're having to rebuild your seat foams. These seats didn't use foam. They had cotton batting, so that's what we're using. Also with this foam, if you were to use this, you would have a square edge on the front, so you actually have to shape this down. That's another reason why we're not using this. The cotton batting rolls nice and easy, so that's why we're going with that. All right, so we've moved to our workbench so that we can work a little freer with moving this thing around. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this burlap and we're gonna pull it tight in the center, okay? Wanna make sure it's smoothed out across the top. We're gonna flip the seat up, and what I wanna do is put just a little bit of tension on it, not a ton. I don't wanna compress the batten and the springs too much, but I want a little bit of tension. And we've got our wire here. We're gonna pull that down a little bit. All right, so we've got this is the center of the seat. Grab the burlap and we're gonna pull from the center all the way out. We want a little bit of tension, not a ton, but a little bit. We've got a hog ring ready to go. And I'm just gonna pull this down, and my listing wire is right there. Okay. You wanna make sure that you're not pulling too tight and creating dimples on the front. If you are, then you need to back off a little bit. Now we're gonna go to the other side of center. Pull that listing wire up. All right, then we keep going across the front. As you go, you wanna spread this out and you wanna pull from the side. Okay, you wanna pull it from the side, each side as you go. So now on the corners, because we're not stitching anything, we're gonna have to fold some stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this kind of snug here. We're gonna pull it under the adjuster. I'm gonna use my needle nose to pull this out a little bit. Pull that tight, pull that tight. Then get a hog ring, go right over that wire, snap it in. Then we can clean this up a little bit, and then the rest of this we can just kind of pull up under here, take some of the gathering out of it. So now on the sides we pulled a little bit more of this material out. Now we've got a nice flat side, and we can just go ahead and finish hog ringing. I want to point out this bolt. This holds the side of the seat on, so we've left the bolts here. When we are ready, we will pull these, make a little X cut in our material and pull these out so that we can bolt the back of the seat on. Pull this so that it's flat and smooth. Obviously that's going to be in the way, it's not a big deal. We're going to deal with this bit when we do the actual blanket part of the install. And I want to pull this as tight around here as possible on that bolt. So now we can trim away all this excess if we want. I'm going to wait on that until I get the blanket ready to go. So the blanket that we got from Speedway Motors, it's got a little star design in the center. So I want to mark the center of the seat so that we can align that with the center. Otherwise it'll look goofy. So we're just gonna measure out the seat you want to get a good measurement right at 55 inches. So that means the center of our seat is 27.5 inches. So we're gonna mark the center of our seat at 27.5 inches, and I'm just gonna put a few little marks. So now we're ready for our blankie. Do you see this little design right here? So I'm gonna center that. I wanted it about the 60% mark, so that when we have the seat back, this is centered front to rear as well. So I feel like that's gonna be about right. Now the tricky part, because this is a vertical pattern, you've gotta be really careful to keep this from waving. All right, so now we've got this where we want it. We're just gonna follow this down to the center. And this is the tricky part. I'm gonna just pop down here and I'm gonna find this first hog ring and I'm gonna go right next to it. You should be able to see the hog ring right there. I'm gonna go right next to it. Make sure it bit. And I'm gonna go one on the other side. Okay, then we're gonna work all the way out. Now this line is from being folded. You could iron this out, but this will straighten up and ease up as the seat gets used. What I don't wanna do here is start tugging at this side to side. I wanna just pull this straight down so that we don't get these lines to zigzagging. So you can see each hog ring here, and I'm just gonna grab the upholstery, pull it back, and I'm gonna go find that little bump right there, and I'm gonna go right next to it. That way I know I've got the listing wire. This is where it gets tricky, so I'm just gonna get this last one right before the curve. There we go. All right, now the next is the back side. This is a tricky part because you want to make sure that you keep it stretched side to side so that you don't have any gathering in the center, but you don't want it to get your pattern to get zigzaggy. You bring it down, you find your listing wire point. So what I like to do on this is I usually go one on either side, and then you can just finish each side. All right, make sure that the pattern is still straight. Find that wire. There we go. Okay, and then we just keep going. So there's a couple different ways you can create your corner. So what I want to do is pull this line, it's right at the edge. I want to pull this line straight down. I'm going to pull all of the material off to the side, and then I'm going to come up to the corner, and we're going to pull a little peak there. And we're going to pull this edge so that the edge of this runs right along the edge of that pink line. Okay, and you can dial this in by hand as you go so that you have a nice seam there. And what this is going to do is this will keep these lines straight across the sides of the seat, so when your doors open it looks good. And that'll keep our pattern looking nice and clean. Now once you hog ring this, you can come through here and you can fold this back and you can put a little bit of heat bond fabric tape. And when you get everything dialed in, you take an iron and you work that iron across the seam, and it will bond these two sections of fabric together so that you don't have anything pull back. So we're just going to get this dialed in. I'm going to go ahead and use my 45s. And we come down here and we'll find that listing wire. You're not gonna get it right every single time, first time. I'm clearly struggling at the moment. Matter of fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I know exactly where that listing wire is, and I'm gonna grab it there. Okay, so now I've got that tight. Now I can pull our blanket over and get my tuck just right. There we go. There we go. Now I've got it. And then you can always fine tune this a little bit if you need to. Now we'll do the rest of this side. So now we just need to pull the fabric down, snug everything up. I think we're gonna go, I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over. Now I can get to the rest of this to tuck this in the way we want. Pull that, and just like on the front side, we can gather this up. This is all gonna be underneath. You're not gonna really see this part of it. We're gonna come on down to the next one. As you go, you're gonna wanna pull the excess to the back, okay? Because we'll have to gather that up. Okay, so we've got the end pulled tight. Now you'll notice that there's this big bar right here. Well, this is for the seat back. It rests up against this. So this part, we're not going to finish this until we have the back wrapped. We just gotta wrap up the other side. We've got a nice seam here. The lines are now nice and clean on the side as well. So we're just gonna go ahead and pull this excess out of the way. We've got a lot of excess material here that's gonna get in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of this. You just wanna be careful that you don't cut this part. So only cut where you need. So we know that this is going away. So we're gonna cut here. Remember, you can always cut more off. You cannot put it back on. Pull a little flap here, right there, like that. Keep this flap underneath. Okay, and allows me to gather up some of that excess material, which also helps with the hog rings, because the more material you have for the hog ring to grab, the better it'll do. So there we go. Now we can go ahead and finish out this side. All of this stuff will get cleaned off, but now we can flip this over. That's our Mexican seat blanket bottom, and we'll go ahead and spin this around. That's the front. We've got this little flap right here, and this little flap right there. Honestly, I don't even know that you'd notice. Yeah, this is gonna look really good. All right, guys, so we finished the seat base, and now we're working on the back. We went ahead and pre-wrapped this with our burlap. It's the same basic process. The only difference is we are not using a listing wire because we don't need to. We've got all of this grid work on the back, as you can see here. So all we did is just wrapped it around, stretched it a little bit, and hog ringed all the way around it. We also repaired a few springs while we were at it. So we're gonna bolt this together real quick and wrap this up. This is the original bolt. We only have one of these, so it was missing. So I made a new one. So we're gonna use 2 brand new bolts here. All right, so over here, remember we left this loose. This, you gotta feel along here and find the divot for the bolt. So I'm just gonna do a little cross right here. Cut right through that. There we go, now we've got our hole. Okay, I'm gonna put my bolt right there, and then we'll go do this on the other side. So now we're just gonna drop the seat back on. We're gonna put this washer in between. There we go. All right. So we're not gonna tighten this all the way. We're just gonna snug it a little bit. All right, so now we've got our seat put together. I've got my Sharpie just so I have a reference. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna mark where this is at. All right, so here's our blankie. And this is the star pattern on this one. It's a little bit different. It's connected instead of just lines, but this is what we got. So I'm gonna throw this over, then I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck this through the back side. So as you can see here, our colors are slightly off. This is green, that's pink, blue, and the pattern's just a little bit different. I don't think it looks bad. I actually think it looks pretty good. So we're gonna run with this. This is just kind of how it happens. You know, you order it, they're the same part number, just slight differences in manufacturer. Maybe this was made a little bit before or after this one or something, I don't know. But either way, it's a Mexican seat blanket, seat cover. It looks good. Funky is what you're after anyways. So we're trying to dial this in a little bit. How's that? Okay, this is running nice and vertical, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a center hog ring to lock this in place. And I'm just gonna go to this point right here, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and do a few across. Gonna pull it. I'm gonna roll it over like I did the last one. Get a hog ring on it. All right, now we just work the sides. So the ends have these little tassels, and I'm noticing that they're falling out when I try to tuck it. So I'm just gonna slice this off. We've got just enough to reach all the way around the back side of this seat and make connection to a piece of the wire. So now I got the bottom started. I'm gonna keep on working my way up. Now I'm gonna pull this on the top. That right there is the side of your seat. We still have to deal with this, which we'll do here in a minute. So now we've got the back done. The back is not quite as clean as I would like it, but it's serviceable. It'll work. Now we need to wrap up the bottom here. So now that we know how this thing sits and fits together, we just need to clean up the base of this a little bit, get rid of some of this excess here. All right, so everything's dialed in and tightened up. Now we've got all this excess. Time to remove it. Now that we've got all the excess removed, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna roll these edges that we've got, and I'm gonna throw some more hog rings on that listing wire. All right guys, here is our Mexican blanket seat. I think it looks really good. I would throw this into just about any truck or car. It's gonna fit, especially an old, you know, hot rod patinaed truck or something like that. This would look really sharp. It feels good, it's comfortable, and this is gonna last a long time. Now, you do notice there is this fold right here. This will work itself out. It's already almost gone out of the bottom, so I suspect in the next few days this will smooth itself out, and definitely if you have this in a car, it'll loosen up, and, or should I say tighten up, and this will clean up. So that's all there is to installing a Mexican blanket seat cover. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Red Dirt Rods. Let's make magic.